like all the other previous episodes, we are going to be talking about what is going on in the British royal family. I have a few points written down of things that I want to talk about, but obviously this is a live stream, so it's your opportunity for those of you who are able to make the live to ask as many questions as you want, and I will try and read out and answer as many as I can. So first of all, hello and welcome. It is the 16th of January 2022. I am absolutely freezing. I have just been outside in the very cold British weather doing some gardening, and I am absolutely frozen. So I do have a nice warm cup of gingerbread herbal tea. I normally drink either just regular tea, British tea, or coffee in the daytime, but I wanted something a bit more kind of warming on the inside. So I thought my gingerbread herbal tea bags would be the tea. So let's do that. I can see lots of people dropping in already. So first of all, I'm going to start with news that broke today that Jeremy Clarkson has actually apologised to Meghan and Harry for the comments and the language used um, that he used in his column. So I'm not going to go over the whole issue, but I am going to kind of read the apology. So, well, not the actual apology. We don't actually. I don't think we actually get to see the apology, but we know of it because he posted an Instagram post telling us that he had done it. So his post reads, and this is direct quotes, so you can go to his Instagram and find out for yourselves. But he says, one of the strange things I've noticed in recent times is that whenever an MP or a well-known person is asked to apologise for something, no matter how heartfelt or profound that apology may be, it's never enough for the people who called for it in the first place. So I'm going to try and buck the trend this morning with an apology for the things I said in a Sun column recently about Meghan Markle. Bearing in mind he's called her Meghan Markle, not the Duchess of Sussex. I really am sorry. All the way from the balls of my feet, follicles to the follicles in my head. Wow. This is me putting my hands up. It's a mea culpa with bells on. Okay, so typically Jeremy Clarkson does try and say things in a humorous way. I think he's tried to put across that he has made an apology. He's put across that he's been asked to do it. So I don't think necessarily he would have offered an apology had he not been almost demanded of him to do so. I mean, obviously, the language he used was the language that he chose to use. It got published. He says that he didn't normally, he reads his columns and things to other people, i.e., I imagine other family members or friends before he hits the send button. Now, I don't know how true that is, but that's what he says. That's his truth on it. And he says that he didn't do that on this occasion. He just pressed the send button and it got sent off. I mean, obviously, there's a responsibility with him in the first place for writing it, using that language. There is a responsibility for the publisher who chose to publish it. Also, I do think, everyone does have a right to their opinion. We do live in a free speech society where hopefully people are allowed to say what they want to say. But again, as with Harry, with the whole spare book, it's about choice. It's about choice of whether or not what you choose to say. Just because you have the right to say something doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing to do or to say or to put out there. So again, for me, it all comes back to choice. I think people should be allowed, even abhorrent things. I mean, people may not agree with people's opinions, but I do respect that people have them, even though it might differ from you or I. Anyway, he has apologised and he has made it well known. He said he emailed Harry and Meghan on Christmas Day to say that his language in the column had been disgraceful and he was profoundly sorry. And obviously, I've read what his Instagram post was. He said, usually I read what I've written to someone else before filing, but I was home alone on that fateful day and in a hurry. So when I'd finished, I just pressed send. And then when the column appeared the next day, the landmine exploded. Um, there we go. Um, and it received all those thousands of complaints. Let's just see what people are saying about that. By the way, hello to everyone who has made the live. There we go. Yes, Patsy, you do most definitely have the right to say that you're an idiot, but again, meaning I think I'm an idiot, but again, it goes down to choice because then that shows you up, doesn't it, for who you are, and the fact that you come onto an open forum and call someone an idiot says a lot more about you than what it ever will about me. So again, it's down to choice. Just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean that you should. Right. Sterling says, I got the reference that Jeremy Clarkson made, but I still don't think it should have been done. Vile, and I say that as no fan of Harry and Meghan. Yeah, the language was not the sort of language that should ever have been published, basically. Kitschy is Team Jeremy. Nancy says, "Where's the swan with the crown on your wall?" Forgot her name. The swan was called Brenda. And for those of you who are new subscribers, I used to have Brenda, the swan, in the background of my videos. Brenda is now in the spare bedroom, royally presiding over the spare bedroom. By the way, I am wearing today some replica royal jewelry. I do have some more on the way, so I will be doing an updated tiara at all, but this is the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. I do know it's partially hidden by my hair, and I'm wearing one of my favourite of the Queen's replica brooches, which is the flower basket brooch, which is, I think, nice and kind of looking forward to spring. Right, I'm going to move on now to the funeral of King Constantine. Now, lots of people were expecting either King Charles to attend or Prince William. Well, Prince William, the Prince of Wales now. I'm still getting used to calling him the Prince of Wales. But people were thinking that either Charles or William would attend on behalf of, of the royal family in general. It turns out that there have been delegations made. So King Charles has chosen Princess Anne to represent him and the wider family. So she has gone to the funeral. And Lady Gabriella Windsor has been chosen by William to represent him personally and the Waleses personally. Now, Lady Gabriella Windsor, who is now Kingston, Lady Gabriella Kingston, um, are both um, King Constantine II of Greece was their godfather. So they both have, I suppose, that link to him. Now, I don't know what kind of relationship they had behind the scenes, whether or not they were kind of really friendly with him. But anyway, that's what's happened. Now, I think probably the substitute could have been, obviously, for diary clashes, if William and Catherine have got prior engagements coming up perhaps tomorrow. That may not have left enough time for them to get back. But also, perhaps as the Prince and Princess of Wales, they wanted their first overseas trip to perhaps not be a funeral. Also, there has been talk of King Charles's first foreign visit since being king, and that's actually expected to be Paris, France. So that kind of surprised me a little bit because I did think that the first overseas travel would be to a Commonwealth country, but it turns out no, it is actually going to be France, and Paris is expected. Steve Elliott says the Princess Royal looked amazing. Absolutely, she always brings it out of the park. And if I zoom in on a photo, you will be able to see. Um, Obviously, with her trademark hair, with her husband Sir Timothy Lawrence, he attended as well. So there we go. There is the Princess Royal attending the funeral. I did look to see if she was wearing any real prominent piece of the late Queen's jewelry collection, but I can't really make out anything from those photographs. So anyway, Lady Gabriella and Princess Anne travelled to Athens today for the former King of Greece's funeral, which will be on Monday. So Princess Anne represented the British royal family at the service, and it is going to be, oh yeah, that's today, Monday is today, the Metropolitan Cathedral in Athens. So there we go. And of course, if you didn't know, Lady Gabriella Windsor is the daughter of Prince and Princess Michael of Kent. There we go. Yes, William is still the Duke of Cambridge and Cornwall because obviously the Duchy of Cornwall comes with the Duke title as well. So whereas that's why Camilla was known as the Duchess of Cornwall, because it was one of the Prince of Wales's subsidiary titles. So technically, Catherine is also now the Duchess of Cambridge, Duchess of Cornwall as well. It's just because of having that kind of clash between the former Princess of Wales, which is why, I mean, technically Camilla was the Princess of Wales when she married the Prince of Wales, obviously Charles. It's still very confusing going by people's past titles and from what they are now. I'm trying to address people from the titles that they are now. Um, right, we are going to talk, Paulette's, I just seen the comment, we are going to talk about Harry wanting an apology from the royal family. We are going to talk about that in a little bit, so just hold that thought for a moment. Geo Leo says, what a nice gesture to Her Majesty the Queen by wearing a replica of her famous jewellery. Yes, I do have quite a few pieces. And I've got one, the star brooch, and one of the rhinestones fell out, so I need to glue that back in. But I will be gluing that back in and wearing it very, very soon. Yes, it's a blue velvet jacket. Yeah. Lots of people liking the flower basket brooch. Right. I think we also need to talk about the future spares, the heir and the spares. So obviously, every time there is a death within the royal family, if it is above you in the line of succession, you move up a place. If it's a death below, then of course you don't, and of course any births above you in the line of succession push you down. So with the Queen, the late Queen's passing, Charles obviously acceded to the throne, and everything shifted up a place, including Prince Harry. Prince Harry also moved up a place as well. But that also means that the heirs and spares also changed. So obviously, Prince William is in line. The Prince of Wales now is in line to the throne. So his children are classed as the heir and the spares. So William obviously has 3 children instead of Charles and Diana's 2. So we don't just have one spare, we actually have 2 spares. Prince George of Wales now is the heir, and of course, Princess Charlotte is the next in line, so she is spare. And Prince Louis of Wales is after Charlotte, so he is also a spare. Now, it's expected that perhaps Princess Charlotte will be given the Princess Royal style and title once Princess Anne is no longer with us. So it's not expected that Anne would ever give up that title to give to Charlotte. But when Princess Anne is no longer here, that style could be given by either King Charles, if he's still alive, or King William, as he would expect it to be at that point in time. There was some talk about whether Charlotte would be given the dukedom, if you like, of Edinburgh and would be known as the Duchess of Edinburgh. I'm not so sure about that one. I always thought that one perhaps is a little bit of a kind of red herring, but I definitely think the Princess Royal would be. So anyway, that in itself kind of almost gives a bit of a meaty role. We already know how successful Princess Anne has been at being the Princess Royal. She's always busy. This year, last year, she was the hardest working royal. So, Princess Charlotte kind of, does have someone, I suppose, to look up to. Prince Harry, in his book, has raised concerns about the future spares. He obviously doesn't want future spares to feel the way that he says that he feels. And apparently, he did kind of in the book reveal that during this conversation with William, where he tried to address it many times, William kind of reproached him by sort of saying, these are my children, it's my family, and basically it's none of your business. My children are my concern. So again, I think that kind of shows another layer of the level of rift between them. Prince Harry has been trying, I suppose, to advise William on how to bring up his children. And I think most people will agree that that's kind of not done. Even within families, you tend to stay away from telling your siblings or cousins or friends, if you like, or even colleagues if you're with work colleagues, even if you fundamentally disagree with how they're being brought up, it's something that you don't necessarily um, bring up with that person. You just don't do it. So I think Harry kind of got the quick, swift brush off when it came to that, and lots of media people have been saying that the way that the Cambridge children and now the Wales children are being brought up is very, very different to how Harry and William were being brought up. For example, William and Catherine are spending a lot more time with the children. The big move to Adelaide Cottage was, I think, for, to increase that sense of intimate private family time. It's a much smaller property. Adelaide Cottage, believed to be 4 bedrooms, no staff accommodation actually within the house. So it really is the Waleses being a family unit. Obviously, in Charles and Diana's day, they were both off on their individual program of engagements. There was a lot of time spent with nannies. That's sort of not as much done now with William and Catherine. They are bringing up their children, I think, very well adjusted. Also, William and Catherine's relationship seems to be very strong. Um, so it's a very different situation. So I don't necessarily think that Charlotte and Louis would feel the same way that Harry did to William. Also, the one thing that's coming across very strongly from the book, or the excerpts that have come out, and also the topics of Harry's interest, is how I think there's a sense of jealousy um, towards William from Harry's point of view, and I'm hoping that Charlotte and Louis won't be brought up that way. Paulette says, why all these confusing titles? Because lots of the royals do have different styles and titles throughout their royal life. They may start off as one thing, and then as, like I say, the line of succession changes and those positions shift, they sort of inherit and take on even more styles and titles. So obviously, with the Queen passing away, King Charles, the Prince of Wales became King Charles, and then William stepped up to being that. And of course, the king now is also the Duke of Lancaster because he derives part of his income from the Duchy of Lancaster. So the Duchy of Cornwall is another big land ownership that now provides William's income. So William no longer derives any income for his personal and public expenditure from the king. He derives everything from the Duchy of Cornwall. So he will fund himself, he will fund Catherine, and when eventually his children come to royal life, he will be funding them as well. Also, he will be paying for their private tuition. Paulette also says William never said it, but the silence of him and the other royals against it. Oh, do you mean the Clarkson thing? Well, again, I mean, it is one of those things. If you say something, would they be called out on it? I don't know. I mean, Clarkson has handled it in his own way. He did apologise. He apologised at the time. I don't think it felt like a sincere apology when he put it out on Twitter. But then obviously he said that he did email them, and then obviously he's released this statement. I mean, let me know in the comment section. Do you think that the royal family? Do you think that King Charles and William should have said something about what Jeremy Clarkson said? Do you think that it's right to be getting into that sort of commenting on what someone's personally said, or what the media has commented? Let me know. Do you think they should have done that? Paulette says Harry did not say anything negative about the Cambridge kids. I didn't say that he did. He only said he was concerned about them being. Yeah, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. Charles Stevens says, well, Harry will feel the same way as William if someone tried to tell him and his wife how to raise their children. Exactly. He would tell them it's not their business. Um, exactly. And it isn't. Just because Harry has had one experience doesn't necessarily mean that William's children are going to have the same. Let's put it this way: Princess Anne and I'm not so sure about Andrew. I think Andrew may have had a little bit of jealousy towards Charles, but Princess Anne and Edward, the Earl of Wessex, don't seem to have any issues, and they were also spares. In fact, Princess Anne has the most concern to have an issue because of the male primogeniture that existed at the time. She was actually pushed below her younger brothers in the line of succession. So if anyone has any kind of gripe or axe to grind against the royal family, it's actually Princess Anne, and she has had no issues whatsoever. Melody thinks that commenting would open up Pandora's box. Silence is golden in this situation. I have to agree, and so far it has served the royal family well. They never complain, never explain. Has actually, I know below the surface there have been, there are press briefings. I do know that, but in terms of actually releasing statements, so far it has served them well with what Harry has been putting out. Paulette thinks the royal family should have said something. They did about the Botox, and also William put a letter out about him bullying Harry and Meghan out of the royal family. I looked further into the Botox story, and I remember commenting on it at the time, and I forgot in the previous video where I mentioned it. But I've now remembered why they put out a statement about the Botox story. It is a weird story to put out a statement about, but it was because the Botox company was using Catherine's image to promote their Botox range. So they didn't want that company to make money off the back of Catherine being a royal, being a member of the royal family. So that is why they put that out. I'm not quite sure that any other, that there's a similar situation where a company was using Harry and Meghan's name and image. I imagine that that would also have been rebutted because, of course, for something to be a double standard, it has to actually be a comparable situation. And I don't think that particularly was. Also, the statement about William bullying Harry and Meghan out of the royal family. Again, we only have Harry's word for that. Now, Harry has shot himself in the foot when it comes to providing evidence, because if there are emails or text messages or anything that he says, hey, I've got proof, here it is, I'm going to publish it in an upcoming book, blah, blah, blah. He shot himself in the foot, or rather, Meghan has, because of the letter that she sent to her father. She sued over it, successfully sued, opening the pathway that any email or letter or text that you send to an individual, you technically own the copyright of it. Therefore, Harry is going to face a bit of a difficulty in trying to prove and back up any of his claims. Because it's one thing to say, we've got proof, but actually they've shot themselves in the foot because they can't now produce it because they will be at risk of doing exactly what Meghan said her father shouldn't have done, and that is to publish that letter. Okay, that kind of leads me quite nicely, I suppose. Oh, hang on, I'm going to read some comments first. James Metaphor says Harry and Meghan have a sanctimonious tone and they make statements and comments that they don't have real knowledge or credentials to make. And Sterling says, right, what is the royal family had said something and Harry and Meghan came back with it wasn't enough. Exactly. Now, I've called this video Harry the Petulant Prince, and I'm going to get to why I have called him a petulant prince, because somebody posted a picture of a page of the book and on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I do read things on there. And It's about when they had to, when they felt they had to leave the UK, and they were cut off from by Charles. So I'm going to read an excerpt of it. I mean, there it is. So you can see that I'm not misquoting anything, and we do have some of the wider context. So he says, sadly, we were going to have to flee. We'd need to find somewhere new and soon, and that would mean paying for our own security. So that just goes to show that he never expected to pay for their own security. I went back to my notebooks, started contacting security firms again. Meg and I sat down to work out exactly how much security we could afford and how much house. So, kind of indicating that perhaps there wasn't as much money as what people may have thought. Exactly then, while we were revising our budget, word came down Pa was cutting me off. I recognised the absurdity, a man in his mid-30s being financially cut off by his father. But Pa wasn't merely my father, he was my boss, my banker, my controller, keeper of the purse strings throughout my adult life. I mean, yes, that is a little bit odd, but if you work in a family business, that's kind of the same thing that happens. Cutting me off, therefore, meant firing me. Um, I don't agree with that. He fired himself. Harry was the one that left, that wanted to pave and finance himself. I mean, he even said, he wants to be financially independent in that initial statement that was put out. He said he wanted to make moves towards being financially independent. Well, to me, financially independent means that you fund yourself entirely, that you do not derive any sort of income from anyone else. You provide everything. Anyway, he says, therefore meant firing me without redundancy pay. Now that's a really weird thing to even claim that you should have. If you are a member of the royal family, you have a working member, you have immense privilege, a lifetime of privilege, living in palaces. And I know Nottingham Cottage wasn't exactly much of a palace, but it was still free. He didn't have to pay anything on it. He would have had the bills paid for. Central London accommodation is worth a lot. It may not have been a big cottage, but it would have cost thousands on the open market to actually rent out. You know, oh my goodness. So he expected redundancy pay and casting me into the void after a lifetime of service. Now, at the time of this, he wasn't serving while he was in school, so less than probably about 10 years of service. So he's claiming that a lifetime of service can be reduced to 10 years. I mean, really, 10 years? Compare that to his father, compare that to Her late Majesty the Queen. Now, the Queen, that's a lifetime of duty and dedicated service. She died still doing her red boxes. She died still doing receiving visitors, still seeing outgoing and incoming prime ministers. That is a lifetime of service. 10 years or so is not a lifetime of service. More after a lifetime of rendering me otherwise unemployable. So he's blaming his position for him thinking that he's unemployable. He's not unemployable. He could quite easily, get a job at McDonald's if he wanted to, or he could get another job. He's not unemployable. He could even go back into the armed services if he wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh's military career was cut short because of obviously being married to the heir to the throne. Of course, when she became queen, he had to leave. So I'm sure he would have liked to have carried on his military career. So no, Prince Harry could have done that. Also, and we spoke about this in previous videos. He's moved to the US. He could have set up numerous other sorts of businesses, product endorsements, in the same way that Zara and Mike Tyndall do. Princess Eugenie and Beatrice to a very lesser extent, but he could have set up, endorsement businesses. Meghan could have carried on acting. They could, they could still do clothing ranges and skincare and whatever. There are so many business things that they could do that don't exploit their family. So no, I would say that he's not unemployable, and he's obviously showed um, since leaving that he is not unemployable. Anyway, um, he says, I felt fatted for the slaughter, suckled like a veal calf. I've never asked to be financially dependent on Pa. I've been forced into this surreal state. Oh, how my heart bleeds for him, living in palaces, having cars provided for you, clothes, food. My goodness. Um, the level of petulance is just outstanding. Um, anyway, let's carry on. This unending Truman Show in which I almost never carried money, never owned a car, never carried a house key, and never once ordered anything online, never received a single box from Amazon, almost never travelled on the underground. And I don't get to see the other page, but let's break down these last claims. So, almost never carried money. Well, obviously, he did carry money because he then went on to say that he used to go to the TK Maxx sale, of which TK Maxx has said that they didn't used to even have a sale. So he could carry money whenever he wanted to. Never owned a car. Well, first of all, most people don't ever own a car. Most people, have cars on finance, and then when the finance is up, they change car. Most people do not are not lucky enough to have the money to go out and buy and own outright a car. So Harry is no different to anyone else. Plus, Harry had the royal family has a contract with Audi, and they have done for years and years. So I think it's 2 to 3 years, the entire fleet of Audi cars. William would have had one. Prince Charles has one. Harry has one. They will all have updated the latest of Audis. I think Harry had an Audi something 5. Anyway, it was top of the range, kitted out with all the protection. All the glass would have been replaced with, bulletproof type glass. I remember at one time the newspaper said that that vehicle was worth £85,000. How many people in their 20s and in their 30s get to drive for free an over £80,000 car, probably closer to £100,000 now, for free? He has had a lifetime of privilege, and he's moaning that he never once got to own a car. No, but uh, you've had the lease of of an £85,000 car all of your driving life. My goodness, the level of petulance. Never ordered anything online. Really? Really? Yes, you can order things online because William and Catherine have said that they order things and it gets sent to the post. They even order takeaways. I think it was either a Chinese or an Indian takeaway that they have delivered. So no, the delivery is not going to go straight up to your door. It will go to the palace guards. They will take delivery or the palace post room. They will take delivery of anything that comes in, and they will pass it on so it gets delivered to the individual accommodation within Kensington Palace. So, for example, with the takeaway, that would be delivered and then that would be passed on. So, yes, Harry could order anything he wanted from Amazon or anything else online. It would just get delivered to the main, I suppose, post room at the palace, or it would go to the main gates. Um, so I don't actually even believe that at all, to be quite honest. So, I mean, just the level of petulance, the level of ungratefulness, all that funding, all that wealth, all that luxury, and he's dismissing it as nothing. I never got to own my own car. I never got to carry my own money. It's actually disgusting. I mean, that actually disgusts me, to be quite honest. Um, Little Annie says, I think we are getting to the finer points. It's all about Charles refusing to pay for him anymore. He's the one who said he wanted to be independent. He did say he wanted to be independent. Island Girl says he's a spoilt, petulant man-child. I loved Harry, and now I'm disappointed in him. Now, The one thing that I have been quite defensive of in the past is the styles and titles. And I know that many people have been calling for Harry to lose the dukedom, to Harry to lose the HRH, even to lose his place in the line of succession. And I think there is a bill proposed to go through Parliament that would extend the right of Parliament to strip people of their dukedoms. I think this uh, this piece of law was put in during wartime, and it meant that anyone with German peerages or anyone that sort of supported the enemy could have their styles and titles removed, and that did actually happen. So there is a motion perhaps going forward that could get through Parliament that would enable them to do that. Now, Charles can't just remove the dukedom. It was once you have a peerage, you have a peerage. It can only be removed by Parliament. Also, the HRH, the His or Her Royal Highness, I think that can be removed technically if new letters patent were issued. But in terms of the line of succession place, again, that would have to be Parliament. So I think you know, basically things have come out that Charles wants reconciliation. Harry wants an apology. Charles also wants reconciliation. We don't think Charles is going to do anything to incite Harry further. So I don't think Charles will issue new letters patent to remove or restrict the HRH. Of course, Harry is voluntarily choosing not to use it in public, but he still technically has it. So I don't know how I feel now about that because being being a royalist, titles and styles and positions within the monarchy, if you start stripping them back, making it a bit like Big Brother, where it's put in there on popularity, it becomes dangerous, and to me that becomes a risk to the monarchy. So, in terms of the dukedom, in terms of the HRH, that's one thing they could be done away with if needs be. However, I mean, they would also probably have to do that for Andrew as well, to be fair. Um, but in terms of the line of succession, I do believe that removing his position in the line of succession would undermine what a hereditary constitutional monarchy is. So I am perhaps a little bit protective of that, not necessarily to protect Harry, but to protect the institution of monarchy. I don't think that Charles or William will do anything outrightedly defensive. I don't think we're going to get a statement being put out. I mean, maybe one similar, maybe a similar reutterance of the recollections may vary, may at some point come out, but I don't think now is the right time. I think at the moment, staying silent probably is the best option. Harry has indicated, I mean, I liken this a little bit to blackmail. He let slip in an interview. I say let slip. Could be. Um, I think he meant to basically say to his family, the book was 800 pages long. I've cut 400 out in the editing process. There is enough material to make another book. I mean, it all reads like a threat. It's a threat to the royal family. He said that there are things that happen behind the scenes that even he doesn't want coming out. Were those things in those 400 pages that were cut? But it seems to me like he's laying his cards on the table that he does have more, that he could say more, and that he might say more, unless the royal family give him, and in particular Meghan, an apology. But he didn't necessarily go into further details on what he wants that apology to be for. He didn't go into specifics. We can guess. We can absolutely, guess what he would want the apology to be for. Um, so let me know in the comment section, do you think Charles and William should apologise to Harry and Meghan? And also, there's the issue with the coronation. It's rumoured that Charles might want Harry to be at the coronation, but doesn't necessarily want him causing, a big massive scene. He wants things settled. Could there be reconciliation talks? I know that there's been talk and leaks coming through, potentially from the palace, saying that perhaps some reconciliation talks could happen before the coronation on May the 6th. So will they happen? I think the big thing about it is trust. I think now, you know, the the level of trust on both sides is not there. The royal family know that Harry will basically bring up anything from private conversations that were never ever meant to go out to the public, and circumstances that happened in the past. Harry has proven that he will bring them up and he will publish them and he will monetize them. Um, so what trust is there? Also, Harry doesn't trust that the royal family won't leak and brief things to the press. So at the moment, I see very much a standoff. I see an impasse, and to me, it's all linked on trust. So, what can the one party do to bring in that trust? The only thing I think you can do in this situation is take a leap of faith and have a meeting. But like I say, that's going to be very, very hard when there is no trust. Um, Rabek's mom says the royal family should not apologise. Harry and Meghan should apologise to them. And this is where we have the impasse. Both sides believe that they are right. The truth is probably somewhere more in the middle. In fact, it would have been so much easier. I think the royal family could have accepted Harry's decision in time to step away and move on and become financially independent if Harry and Meghan hadn't started with the Oprah interview, um, and sort of trying to settle scores. I don't think that the score settling was a very good start for Harry and Meghan. It wasn't a very good launch pad. I think it is affecting their popularity. The book has sold well. I mean, the book has been noted in the Guinness Book of World Records that it's the fastest ever selling non-fiction book, which I felt was a bit weird because I remember the Andrew Morton Diana book coming out, and I would have thought that would have been the fastest non-selling fiction in history. But anyway, apparently it has broken records. But just because people are buying it doesn't necessarily mean that they are agreeing with it. So I wouldn't count a book sale as a vote of support. I know some people are not buying the book as a vote of non-support, um, but certainly people will be reading it and people will be having differences of opinions. There will be a lot of nosy people out there that just want to know exactly what it is. But it doesn't necessarily mean that people agree with him. So I think some people are sort of taking the success of the book as being support, and I don't think that's necessarily the truth. Island Girl says the royal family should just ignore him. RB says, what exactly should the royal family apologise for? The trust is gone. Harry and Meghan need to understand that it's over. How much more can they monetize? I mean, Harry could go through his entire life raking up dirt, but I think there comes a point when people are going to ask, what more can you give? I mean, in terms of Harry's Netflix documentary, the other documentary, not the one where they both spoke, but the other one, that didn't do very well. And really, the things that are doing exceptionally well are the things where they're talking or revealing things about their family. With the exception, I think, of Meghan's podcast, that has done well. She has sort of, I suppose, mentioned, you know, the experiences a little bit, but not no way near like Spare, no way near like the Netflix documentary. So one does wonder, what if they don't speak about the royal family, what else do they have left? Steve L says, how different would things be if Harry had asked the Queen for an extended break from royal duties rather than just opting to stand out? Well, Camilla apparently expressed that perhaps Harry should have had a very meaty, important stint as being a governor general in one of the Caribbean countries or somewhere else in the Commonwealth. Now, this is something I spoke about at the time that they announced that they wanted an extended summer break. I did say at the time that perhaps Harry and Meghan, Harry in particular, would benefit from being made a Governor General, Canada, Australia, one of the Caribbean islands, anywhere in the Commonwealth, that needed a new Governor General. A Governor General role is for 5 years. It was just sort of after the birth of Archie, to excuse me. And it would have meant that they could have had 5 years away from Britain, away from the British press, where they could have adjusted after all the really fast-paced life changes that they'd gone through. You know, the engagement, wedding, the press intrusion, adjusting to royal engagements, and adjusting to being a married couple, having a baby, all the foreign tours. It would have given them 5 years to kind of just slow down the pace a little bit, adjust to all the changes, adjust to being a family unit, away from that direct gaze of the British media. Harry could have had a very important role. It's a very prestigious role to be a Governor General, which is basically like a de facto monarch. You have the kind of de facto powers as a constitutional monarch. He would have represented the Queen, and Meghan could have concentrated on, at the time, the Sussex Royal um, charitable endeavours. So Harry would have had a meaty constitutional role, which definitely would have made him feel important, not being the spare. Meghan could have concentrated on charity work, building up that charity work, and I think that, and then they could have um, decided what to do when Archie was about to start school. So, to be perfectly honest, if that is what also Camilla suggested, I actually think it was a good idea. I think it would have given them time to adjust, a meaty role that would have made Harry feel important and not so much as a spare. And it would have secured a future role, I think, within the Commonwealth. And Meghan could have got on with her philanthropic endeavours. So I think it was actually a really good suggestion. It was a suggestion that I made myself. And I think he should have taken that up. James Medford says, I thought Harry was on a corporate board, which is a paid. Yes, there is something to do. I think it was a finance company. So there is other ways that he could have made money without speaking about his family. Kizzy says, I remember when you said that. I did. I did. And I thought it was a good suggestion. Kitchie thinks that Meghan wanted California. Julianne says, I wish the Duke and Duchess of Sussex would use all their anger and negativity towards charity events or large projects. Yep. Jean says, we have enough citizens within the country to appoint as Governor General. We don't want Harry sent here. And you're from Canada. I mean, in previous Governor Generals have been members of the royal family. Wallace and Edward was sent over to, I believe, a Caribbean. I think it was Barbados actually. If it wasn't Barbados, it was a Caribbean country where he served, I think, a 5-year stint, and apparently he loved it over there. So it has happened. There is precedence for it, and yeah, so it could have happened. Tim says Harry should have married a British woman. Lots of people are talking about Cressida. Chelsea Davy. A lot of people are talking about Chelsea Davy as being the one that maybe got away. Let me know your thoughts on that one. It was Bermuda. There you go. It was Bermuda. I knew it began with a B. Crook says they can't trust him. He's going to write more books. Who's going to believe him? And like I say, that is where the impasse is. It's most definitely based upon trust. Okay, I think we have spoken about all the things on my list. So we're going to move on. I'm going to take a few questions before I finish up. I will probably be back tomorrow with another video because I imagine more things will be happening. So if you do have any questions, do let me know really quickly. I will try and answer them, and then we will end today's video. James Medford says, will you do a post on the death of the King of Greece? I haven't done a separate video. I don't plan on doing a separate video, but I did speak about who from the British royal family has gone to his funeral, which was held today. It was Princess Anne and Lady Gabriella Windsor, who is now at Kingston. Do I think that Harry will attend the coronation? it's tricky. I think there will be an invite. I can't see they won't be invited. Whether or not the invite will extend to Meghan, I don't know, or whether it will be an invite for both, but maybe Meghan will stay away. It will just be Harry go. I don't know. I think there will be a bit of a media circus around them, but don't forget the coronation is bigger than everyone else. It is about the monarch. I don't really think, even if Harry and Meghan do attend, I don't really think it will overshadow the event of the coronation. It is a solemn vow. And I don't think that that will overshadow. In fact, they could, make Harry and Meghan almost obscure into the background by the seating plan if they really wanted to. So no, I think there would be a buzz around them, but I don't think it would overshadow the event. If they do go, it will show that it will sort of, people will say that they are trying to get a little bit more of that royal magic so they can sell it, basically, monetize it. If they don't go, they'll be snubbing. So my prediction, it is just a prediction, I think that Harry will go on his own. But then again, it is Archie's birthday as well, so will he? Yeah, but maybe Meghan could come over and they could be in Frogmore Cottage and just Harry would attend, perhaps. Susan says it's creepy that he has not even felt any resistance to the public backlash on Spare, but instead inserts himself as ambassador of William's children and threatens another 400-page book. Petulant. It is petulant. Steve says, on leaving a recent engagement, I thought the Prince and Princess of Wales avoided the question of the book really well. Yes, they did, and they were asked about it by the media. Catherine did make a comment about mental health, saying that talking therapy doesn't always work for everyone, and that was seen as a bit of a barbed comment aimed squarely at Harry. Sandeep says, the role of Governor General entails to follow rules, but do you think Harry and Meghan would follow rules and conventions? I reckon the Queen and King Charles deliberately didn't let Harry have a role of Governor General. There are rules, regulations. There would be restrictions, exactly the same as there is within the working royal family. But I think, if we are to take what Harry has said and the media scrutiny was too much to bear, being away from that tabloid, being able to get on with a daily role, a daily important job, I think that would have been suitable. I just don't think they wanted it. Yeah, invite by blackmail, exactly. Thank you to Susan. Lots of people saying they don't think it's appropriate for Harry to attend the coronation. Right, there we go. So I'm going to end and wrap up today's live stream. If you do have any important questions or comments and you're watching on catch up, please do leave them in the comment section below. It's always important to get these videos out to people. I don't always think that YouTube pushes things out in the right places. So if you do think and you found this video useful to have a kind of round talk about topics and discussions, and you think other people would enjoy it, please share on social media. Please like, leave a comment, hit that notification bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. And from me, until the next time, to you all, and goodbye.